The mining asteroid designated as Kepler 442b7 wasn't much to look at, just another chunk of rock floating in the void, riddled with tunnels and extraction points, where human crews pulled rare metals from its core. The facility was small, practical, and designed for efficiency rather than beauty. Most beings in the galaxy wouldn't give it a second glance, which was exactly why Marcus Webb liked it that way. The 42-year-old Foreman stood in the main observation deck, his weathered hands wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee as he watched the morning shift begin their work. His crew was good people, miners, engineers, and support staff who knew their jobs and did them well. No bureaucrats, no fancy protocols, just honest work in the black of space. The proximity alarm began its low, steady pulse. Marcus frowned and moved to the sensor console. The screen showed something massive approaching from the direction of the Centauri cluster. Whatever it was big enough to register on their long-range scanners and moving under its own power. "Sandy, you seeing this?" he called to his communications officer. Sandra Chen looked up from her station, her dark hair pulled back in the regulation ponytail that never seemed to stay perfectly neat. "Got it, boss. Running identification protocols now." She paused, her fingers dancing over the controls. "Marcus, this thing isn't in any database I can access. And it's huge." Through the reinforced windows of the observation deck, they could see it now. A shape that defied easy description, moving with graceful, powerful strokes through the vacuum of space. As it drew closer, details became clear. It was a dragon. Not the mythical creatures from Earth's old stories, but something far more magnificent and terrible. Its scales caught and reflected the distant starlight, creating patterns of brilliance across its massive form. The creature was easily 300 meters from nose to tail, with wings that could have wrapped around their entire facility. But what struck Marcus most was its color, or rather, the lack of it. The dragon was pure white, an albino giant that seemed to glow with its own inner light. "Holy," Sandra whispered, then caught herself. "Boss, what do we do?" Marcus set down his coffee and moved to the primary communication array. In his 15 years running mining operations, he'd dealt with pirates, corporate raiders, and the occasional curious alien patrol. But this was something entirely new. The dragon settled onto the asteroid's surface with surprising gentleness, its massive claws finding purchase in the rocky terrain. For a moment, it simply rested there, its great head turned toward the facility. Then it spoke. The voice came through their communication system, bypassing their security protocols as if they didn't exist. It was ancient, tired, and carried undertones of barely contained power. "Small beings of this place," the voice said in perfect standard galactic, "I require assistance." Marcus keyed the external speakers. "This is Marcus Webb, foreman of Kepler Mining Station 7. State your business." There was what might have been a chuckle. "Direct. I appreciate that quality in lesser species. I am Sithrakesh the Eternal, guardian of the seventh spiral, keeper of ancient wisdoms." The dragon's massive head tilted slightly. "I have a personal problem that has proven beyond the abilities of the most advanced civilizations in this galaxy. And you think a mining station can help?" Marcus kept his voice steady, professional. "Perhaps. Your species has a reputation for creative solutions to practical problems. My difficulty is admittedly practical in nature." Marcus glanced at Sandra, who was frantically trying to access any information about this Sithrakesh character. Her expression suggested she wasn't having much luck. "What kind of problem?" The dragon was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, there was something almost embarrassed in its tone. "I cannot clean myself. It has been some time since I was last properly cleansed." Marcus blinked. "Come again?" "I said I cannot clean myself, small foreman." The accumulated matter of centuries clings to my scales and will not be removed by conventional means. I have consulted with the Altarian Science Collective, the crystalline entities of Proxima, and even the bioengineers of New Kepler. None could provide a solution. Sandra finally looked up from her console, her face pale. Marcus, I found something. Scythrakesh the Eternal. He's mentioned in about a dozen different historical databases. This thing is old. Like, older than recorded galactic civilization old. And apparently, he hasn't been seen in public for almost 300 years. The dragon's head turned toward the communications array, as if it could see through the walls. 312 years, to be precise. I have been in seclusion, attempting to resolve this matter on my own. Pride, you understand. One does not easily admit to such mundane difficulties. Marcus found himself looking out at the massive creature with new eyes. 3 centuries without a proper bath. He tried to imagine the buildup of space dust, debris, and who knew what else that could accumulate over that kind of time frame. The dragon's scales, while beautiful, did seem to have a dulled quality to them, as if covered by a fine layer of accumulated material. "Have you tried industrial cleaning systems?" Marcus asked. "The Altarians subjected me to their most powerful sonic cleansers. The result was merely to shift the accumulated matter into different patterns. The crystalline entities attempted to vibrate the debris loose at the molecular level. This succeeded only in giving me what you might term an extremely unpleasant headache." "What about chemical solutions?" "The bioengineers of New Kepler developed 17 different compounds specifically for this purpose. Each test patch resulted in uncomfortable reactions that necessitated immediate neutralization. My scales, it seems, are somewhat more chemically sensitive than standard biological matter." Marcus leaned back against the console, thinking. 300 years of accumulated space grime on a creature with apparently sensitive skin and scales that had proven immune to both sonic and chemical cleaning. It was, he had to admit, an interesting problem. "Why come to us?" he asked. "Your species has a reputation throughout this sector for approaching problems from unconventional angles. Where others see obstacles, humans often see opportunities. Where others apply advanced technology, humans frequently employ basic principles with remarkable results." Sandra snorted quietly. "In other words, we're the galactic equivalent of duct tape and good intentions." "I heard that," Marcus said mildly. To the dragon, he said, "What makes you think we can succeed where these other civilizations failed?" "Perhaps you cannot, but I have exhausted the options provided by advanced science and sophisticated technology. Logic suggests that a different approach might prove more fruitful." Marcus looked out at the dragon again. Scythrakesh lay coiled on the asteroid's surface, his great wings folded along his sides. There was something almost pitiful about the mighty creature, despite his obvious power. 3 centuries of isolation because of something as basic as personal hygiene. "If we help you," Marcus said, "what's in it for us?" "I have access to knowledge accumulated over millennia. Star charts showing worlds rich in rare metals that your kind prizes. Technologies that might prove useful, though perhaps not as sophisticated as what you might expect. And of course, my considerable gratitude." "Which means what exactly?" "Protection, should you ever require it. There are forces in this galaxy that would think twice before troubling those under my regard. And should you ever have need of transport across vast distances, my speed through the void exceeds most mechanical vessels." Marcus glanced at his crew. Sandra was trying to hide her excitement behind professional composure, but he could see the gleam in her eyes. The geological surveys they could conduct with reliable protection and fast transport could revolutionize their operation. The mineral rights alone. "I need to consult with my people," Marcus said. "Of course. I shall wait." Marcus muted the external communications and turned to his small staff. Besides Sandra, there was Tommy Martinez, their chief engineer, a compact man with grease permanently embedded under his fingernails. Dr. Sarah Kim, their geologist and general science officer, was a thin woman who always looked like she needed more sleep. And Jim Okafor, their maintenance chief, a giant of a man who could fix anything with moving parts. "Opinions?" Marcus asked. "This is insane," Dr. Kim said immediately. "We're a mining operation, not a dragon car wash." "The potential benefits are enormous," Sandra countered. "That thing out there is basically offering to be our personal protector and transport system in exchange for a cleaning service." Tommy wiped his hands on a rag, thinking, the real question is whether we can actually do it. If the Altarians and all those other fancy civilizations couldn't figure it out, what makes us think we can? "Because we're not thinking like them," Jim said slowly. "Advanced civilizations, they probably went straight for the high-tech solutions. Sonic this, molecular that, chemical whatever. But sometimes the old ways work better." "What do you mean?" Dr. Kim asked. Jim grinned. "I mean sometimes you need to get your hands dirty. Literally." Marcus felt something click into place. "You're thinking manual cleaning. I'm thinking about the time my grandfather's old combine harvester got so caked with mud and crop residue that nothing would touch it. Pressure washers, industrial solvents, nothing worked. You know what finally cleaned it?" "What?" "4 guys with brushes, scrapers, and a lot of elbow grease. Sometimes there's no substitute for hands-on work." Dr. Kim shook her head. "That's a farm machine. This is a 300-meter alien dragon with apparently sensitive skin." "Same principle," Tommy said, warming to the idea. "We just need to scale up the approach and modify our tools." Marcus looked out at Sith Rakesh, who waited patiently on the asteroid's surface. The dragon had turned his great head toward the stars, and there was something almost wistful in his posture. "Sandy, what's our supply situation?" "We've got industrial brushes for cleaning equipment, various soaps and solvents for maintenance work, and the fabrication unit can probably make whatever specialized tools we might need." "Jim, could you rig up a pressure system that's adjustable? Something that could provide anything from a gentle rinse to a serious scrubbing force?" "Give me 6 hours and whatever materials I need, sure." "Dr. Kim, would you be willing to run some tests? Figure out what kind of cleaning agents might be safe for dragon scales?" The geologist sighed. "This is completely outside my field of expertise, but yes, I suppose we could do some careful chemical testing." Marcus nodded. "Tommy, I'll need you to design whatever tools we might need. Brushes that can reach everywhere, platforms for us to work from, safety equipment in case this goes wrong." "Boss," Sandra said quietly, "are we really doing this?" Marcus looked around at his crew. They were good people, practical people who understood that sometimes the best solutions were also the simplest ones. And if they succeeded, if they could actually solve a problem that had stumped the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. "Yeah," he said, "we're really doing this." He keyed the external communications back on. "Sith Rakesh will take the job, but we do it our way, with our tools and our methods, and if this works, we're going to want that protection agreement in writing." The dragon's laughter was like distant thunder. "Agreed, small foreman. I confess I am curious to see what approach your kind will devise. Give us 24 hours to prepare. This isn't going to be quick, and it's not going to be easy." "I have waited 3 centuries, Marcus Webb. I can wait 1 more day." As the communication cut off, Marcus found his crew looking at him with expressions ranging from excitement to terror. He couldn't blame them. In the next day, they were going to attempt something that no one in the galaxy had ever done before: give a bath to an ancient alien dragon using nothing but human ingenuity and basic tools. "Well," he said, raising his coffee cup, "I guess we'd better get started." Outside, Sith Rakesh settled more comfortably onto the asteroid's surface, his ancient eyes reflecting the distant stars. For the first time in 3 centuries, he felt something that might have been hope. 24 hours later, The mining station looked like it had been transformed into something between a construction site and a chemistry lab. Equipment that had never been designed to work together was jury-rigged into new configurations, and the fabrication unit had been running non-stop to produce specialized tools. Marcus stood on a temporary observation platform, watching his crew make final preparations. The dragon had remained perfectly still during their work, occasionally answering questions, but otherwise simply waiting with the patience that comes from having lived for millennia. "Status report," Marcus called down to his team. Tommy looked up from where he was making final adjustments to a pressure system that had been cobbled together from 3 different pieces of mining equipment. "Pressure system is ready. We can adjust from a gentle mist all the way up to industrial-grade blast, with about 50 settings in between." Dr. Kim emerged from the temporary lab they'd set up in Storage Bay C, carrying a collection of test samples. "I've analyzed 17 different cleaning compounds. Most are too harsh, but I found 3 that should be safe for the dragon's scales. One is basically a gentle soap derived from plant fibers. Another is a mild abrasive compound that dissolves organic buildup, and the third is an enzyme solution that breaks down accumulated proteins." Jim wheeled out a cart loaded with brushes of every conceivable size and shape. Some were standard industrial equipment, others were custom fabricated based on his specifications. "Brushes are ready. I've got everything from fine detail work to heavy scrubbing, and I designed them with extended handles so we can reach the high places." Sandra had been coordinating the logistics and safety protocols. "Emergency medical equipment is standing by, though I'm not sure what we'd do if a 300-meter dragon has an allergic reaction. Communication systems are ready for constant contact, and I've plotted evacuation routes in case this goes badly." Marcus nodded. The truth was, none of them really knew what they were doing. They were literally making it up as they went along, using basic principles and human stubbornness in place of sophisticated knowledge. "All right," he said into his communicator. "Sithrakesh, we're ready to begin if you are." The dragon's massive head turned toward them, and Marcus could see something like anticipation in those ancient eyes. "I am prepared, small Foreman. How do you wish to proceed?" "We'll start small. Dr. Kim is going to do a few test patches with different cleaning compounds to make sure none of them cause you any discomfort. Then we'll work our way up to the full treatment." "Very well." Dr. Kim approached the dragon's massive foreleg with the cautious steps of someone who was very aware she was dealing with a creature that could accidentally crush her without noticing. She carried a small spray bottle and a soft brush, looking like someone preparing to clean a mountain. "I'm going to start with the mildest compound," she called out, her voice carrying clearly in the thin atmosphere. "Please let me know immediately if you feel any irritation or discomfort." She sprayed a small area of the dragon's scales with the plant-based soap solution and began to gently scrub with the soft brush. Almost immediately, centuries of accumulated space dust and debris began to come loose, revealing scales underneath that shone with an opalescent brilliance. Sithrakesh rumbled, a sound that vibrated through the asteroid itself. That feels quite pleasant, actually." Encouraged, Dr. Kim continued her test. The area she'd cleaned stood out like a bright patch against the dulled surface of the dragon's hide. The difference was remarkable. Where she'd worked, the scales reflected light like polished mirrors, showing depths and colors that hadn't been visible before. "The mild soap is working well," she reported. "No apparent irritation, and it's removing the surface layer effectively." "Try the enzyme solution on a different area," Marcus suggested. Dr. Kim moved to a spot near the dragon's shoulder and applied the second compound. This worked even better, breaking down what appeared to be thick patches of accumulated organic material, but more importantly, Sithrakesh showed no signs of discomfort. "Remarkable," the dragon murmured. "I had forgotten what my scales looked like when clean." After successful tests with all three compounds, Marcus gave the signal for the full operation to begin. His crew approached the Dragon with the organized efficiency that came from years of working together in dangerous conditions. Tommy started with the pressure system, using a low-pressure setting to begin the initial rinse. Jim followed with the larger brushes, working to loosen the heavier accumulations of debris. Dr. Kim moved methodically with her cleaning compounds, treating areas based on what type of buildup she encountered. Sandra coordinated the effort, making sure everyone stayed in communication and that they worked in overlapping sections. The process was slow, methodical, and absolutely fascinating. As they worked, layers of accumulated material came away like geological strata, each one representing decades of travel through space. There were traces of cosmic dust from stellar formations, microscopic debris from asteroid fields, and even what appeared to be the fossilized remains of tiny space organisms that had somehow become embedded in the Dragon's scales over time. "This is incredible," Dr. Kim said, holding up a sample of what they'd removed. "From a scientific standpoint, this creature is like a living record of galactic history. These deposits contain materials from star systems across the galaxy." "From a practical standpoint," Jim said, pausing in his scrubbing, "this is the biggest cleaning job I've ever seen. And I once had to clean an ore processor that hadn't been maintained in 5 years. Sithrakesh seemed to be enjoying the process immensely. The Dragon had stretched out to his full length, making it easier for the humans to reach different areas, and occasionally made sounds that could only be described as contented rumbling. "I must ask," the Dragon said as Tommy worked on a particularly stubborn patch near his neck, "how did your species develop such effective techniques for this type of work?" Marcus, who was coordinating the effort from his platform, smiled. "Trial and error, mostly. Humans have been cleaning things for thousands of years. Clothes, buildings, equipment, ourselves. We've learned that sometimes the simple approaches work better than the complicated ones. The advanced civilizations I consulted seemed to believe that more sophisticated methods would be inherently superior." "Advanced doesn't always mean better," Jim called out, working on a section near the Dragon's tail. "Sometimes it just means more complicated, and more complicated means more ways for things to go wrong." As the hours passed, the transformation became increasingly dramatic. Where they'd cleaned, Sithrakesh's scales showed their true beauty, a pure, lustrous white that seemed to contain hints of every color in the spectrum. The Dragon's natural luminescence, which had been dimmed by centuries of accumulated grime, began to shine through more and more clearly. "You're actually glowing," Sandra observed during one of their rest breaks. "I mean, literally glowing." "A biological characteristic of my species," Sithrakesh explained. "But the accumulated matter had dampened the effect considerably. I had forgotten how bright it could be." Tommy wiped sweat from his forehead. "Boss, we're making good progress, but this is going to take a while. We've covered maybe 20% of the total surface area." Marcus nodded. They'd known from the beginning that this wasn't going to be a quick job. Cleaning a 300-meter Dragon was like cleaning a small starship, except with the added complexity of working around living tissue that could react unpredictably. "How are you holding up?" Marcus asked the Dragon. "Better than I have in centuries, small Foreman. This is the most comfortable I have been in longer than your species has had spaceflight." The work continued through their normal sleep cycle, with crew members taking shifts to ensure continuous progress. Marcus found himself working alongside his people, using brushes and cleaning compounds just like the rest of them. There was something deeply satisfying about the work, seeing the immediate results of their efforts, watching the Dragon's true appearance emerge from beneath centuries of accumulation. During the night shift, when just Jim and Dr. Kim were working on a complex section around the Dragon's wing joints, Sithrakesh began to talk about his long life. He spoke of civilizations that had risen and fallen, of stellar phenomena he'd witnessed, of the loneliness that came with outliving entire species. I had begun to believe that this condition was permanent, he admitted, that I would spend the remainder of my existence hidden away, too ashamed to appear before others of my kind. Other dragons? Dr. Kim asked, carefully working around a particularly sensitive area. There are not many of us left. We are long-lived but not immortal, and we reproduce rarely. In my isolation, I have missed the birth celebrations of 3 hatchlings and the passing ceremony of an elder. My pride has cost me precious time with my people. Jim paused in his work. Sometimes pride is just fear wearing fancy clothes, fear of being vulnerable, of needing help. A wise observation from such a young species. We're young, but we've made a lot of mistakes. Most of us have learned that asking for help isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of good sense. By the time the second day began, they had made significant progress. Sithrakesh's head, neck, and most of his torso showed the brilliant white of clean scales, while his wings and lower body still bore the dulled appearance of accumulated grime. The contrast was striking. "We need to talk about the wings," Marcus said during the morning briefing. "They're going to be the most challenging part. The membrane between the wing struts is delicate, and we'll need to be extra careful. I can fold them in different configurations to provide better access," Sithrakesh offered. "And I should warn you, the wing membranes are quite sensitive. They may require an even gentler approach." Dr. Pro Kim had been studying samples from different parts of the dragon's body. "The wing buildup is different from the scale accumulation. It's thinner but more tightly bonded. I think we'll need to use primarily the enzyme solution and very light pressure." "Safety protocols will be critical," Sandra added. "If something goes wrong while we're working on the wings, we need to be able to get clear immediately." "Understood," Sithrakesh said. "I give you my word that I will remain perfectly still during the wing cleaning, regardless of any discomfort." The wing cleaning turned out to be the most delicate work any of them had ever attempted. The dragon's wing membranes were indeed sensitive, requiring the gentlest possible touch. But the results were spectacular. As the accumulated matter came away, the wing membranes revealed an almost transparent quality, shot through with veins that glowed with the same soft light as the dragon's scales. "Beautiful," Dr. Kim breathed, stepping back to admire their work on the first wing. "Absolutely beautiful," Marcus had to agree. They were revealing something magnificent that had been hidden for 3 centuries, and they were doing it with soap, water, brushes, and good old-fashioned elbow grease. "1 wing down," Tommy said, grinning despite his exhaustion. "1 to go." As they began work on the second wing, Marcus realized that something had changed among his crew. They weren't just doing a job anymore, they were accomplishing something that no one else in the galaxy had been able to do. They were solving an impossible problem with the most basic tools imaginable. It was, he thought, a very human thing to do. The final phase of cleaning took another full day, but when it was finished, even Marcus had to admit that the result was beyond anything he'd imagined possible. Sithrakesh the Eternal stood on the asteroid's surface, his massive form blazing with inner light. The accumulated grime of 3 centuries was gone, revealing scales that seemed to contain captured starlight. His wing membranes were translucent works of art, showing delicate patterns of veins that pulsed with gentle luminescence. The dragon's natural beauty was breathtaking, a creature of living light and pure elegance. But more than his appearance had changed. The dragon's entire demeanor was different. Where before he had seemed weighed down by shame and isolation, now he carried himself with the confident grace of a being comfortable in his own magnificence. Sithrakesh began, then stopped. For a moment, the ancient dragon seemed at a loss for words. "I had forgotten, truly forgotten what it felt like to be clean." Marcus and his crew stood back, admiring their work with the satisfaction that comes from a job well done. They were all exhausted. 3 days of intensive labor had pushed them to their limits, but they had accomplished something remarkable. "You look good," Marcus said simply. "Really good." The dragon stretched his wings, testing their movement, and the membrane caught the light of distant stars like stained glass windows. "I feel reborn, renewed in ways I had not thought possible." Dr. Kim was taking final samples and measurements, her scientific mind still fascinated by what they'd discovered. "The buildup we removed contained materials from hundreds of different star systems. From a research standpoint, this has been invaluable. From a maintenance standpoint," Jim added, cleaning his brushes, "this was the most satisfying job I've ever done. Not often you get to see results this dramatic." Tommy was already breaking down the pressure system, his engineer's mind already thinking about how to improve the design for future use. "We learned a lot about adapting our equipment for unusual situations. Could be useful information down the line." Sandra had been documenting the entire process, knowing that this was the kind of story that would become legend among human crews throughout the sector. "I still can't believe we actually did it. A dragon bath. With mining equipment and industrial soap." Sithrakesh lowered his great head until he was at eye level with Marcus. Up close, the dragon's eyes were like pools of liquid light, ancient and intelligent, beyond human comprehension. "Marcus Webb," the dragon said formally, "I owe you and your crew a debt that cannot easily be repaid. You have given me back not just my appearance, but my dignity and my place among my people." "We had a deal," Marcus replied. "You said you'd provide protection and assistance in exchange for our help. I figure we're even." "Even?" The dragon's laughter was warm now, no longer tinged with embarrassment or pain. "Small Foreman, what you have accomplished is worth far more than simple protection. You have succeeded where the greatest minds in the galaxy failed. And you did it not with advanced technology or sophisticated science, but with wisdom, persistence, and honest labor." Marcus felt a flush of pride, not just for himself, but for his entire crew. They had done something unprecedented, and they'd done it the human way, with practical thinking and hard work. "There is something you should know," Sithrakesh continued. "I sent word to my people during the night, informing them of my situation and your solution. The response has been remarkable." "How so?" "It seems I am not the only one of my kind who has suffered from this problem. Several others have been dealing with similar accumulation over the centuries, too proud to seek help or unable to find effective solutions. Your success has created quite a sensation among the dragon clans." Sandra looked up from her documentation. "You mean there are other dragons who need cleaning?" "Indeed. My cousin Zarathus the Magnificent has been in self-imposed exile for nearly 2 centuries due to this very issue. Vorthak the Wise has avoided social gatherings for over a century. Young Pyrian, only 500 years old, has never been able to maintain proper scale luster due to rapid accumulation during his growth phase." Marcus felt his business instincts stirring. "Are you saying we might have multiple customers for this service?" "I am saying that you have inadvertently created an entirely new profession. Dragon hygienist, perhaps? Scale maintenance technician?" The dragon's eyes sparkled with amusement. "I suspect you could name your price for such services." The implications were staggering. If there were dragons throughout the galaxy who needed this kind of help, and if humans were uniquely suited to provide it, they could be looking at an entirely new industry. Dragon cleaning services, provided by practical human crews with basic equipment and common sense. "The payment wouldn't necessarily be monetary," Sithrakesh continued. "Dragons accumulate knowledge, resources, and favors over the centuries. Star charts, mineral rights, technological secrets, protection agreements. We have much to offer in exchange for services rendered." Tommy whistled low. Boss, we could revolutionize our entire operation. Instead of just mining one asteroid, we could have access to entire systems. The guild contracts alone, Sandra began, then stopped, apparently overwhelmed by the possibilities. But Marcus was thinking about more than just business opportunities. What about the long-term implications? If this works out, if we really do become the go-to species for dragon maintenance, what does that mean for human-dragon relations? Sithrakesh considered this carefully. It would mean partnership rather than mere coexistence. Dragons are powerful beings, but we are also proud ones. We do not easily accept help, nor do we quickly forget those who provide it. A species that could solve our problems with simple wisdom and honest effort would earn our lasting respect. Dr. Kim looked up from her samples. From a scientific perspective, this could open up unprecedented opportunities for knowledge exchange. Dragons have observed galactic phenomena for millennia. The research possibilities are incredible. And from a practical perspective, Jim added, it means job security. I don't think we'll be hurting for work anytime soon. Marcus nodded slowly. They had started this as a simple problem-solving exercise, a way to help one creature in distress, but it was becoming clear that they had stumbled onto something much larger. There's one thing I want to make clear, Marcus said, looking up at Sithrakesh. If we do this, if we really get into the dragon cleaning business, we do it our way. No advanced technology, no sophisticated equipment, just human methods, human tools, and human work ethic. I would not have it any other way, the dragon replied. Your methods proved effective precisely because they were uncomplicated and direct. Sophistication, it seems, is not always superior to simplicity. Over the following weeks, word spread through the dragon community with remarkable speed. Sithrakesh had returned to his people, his magnificent appearance serving as living proof of the human crew's abilities. Within a month, Marcus had received formal requests for services from 6 other dragons, each offering substantial compensation for scale cleaning and maintenance. The mining station was expanded to accommodate the new business. Specialized cleaning equipment was developed based on their successful techniques, but always keeping to the principle of simple, effective tools rather than complex technology. Additional crew members were brought in and trained in proper dragon maintenance procedures. Dr. Kim established a research partnership with several galactic universities, studying the materials recovered from dragon scales to better understand stellar phenomena and galactic history. Tommy designed increasingly sophisticated versions of their basic cleaning systems, always prioritizing reliability and simplicity over technological complexity. Jim became the galaxy's first certified dragon maintenance specialist, training teams throughout human space in the proper techniques. Sandra documented everything, and their story became legendary among human crews throughout the sector. The tale of the mining foreman who gave a dragon a bath and revolutionized interspecies relations was told in every spaceport bar from here to the galactic rim. For his part, Sithrakesh became a regular visitor to the station, serving as both customer and consultant as they refined their techniques. The ancient dragon seemed to genuinely enjoy the company of the human crew, often staying after his maintenance sessions to share stories of distant worlds and ancient civilizations. You know, he said during one such visit, watching the crew clean young Pyrion's scales with the patient efficiency they'd perfected, I have lived for over 3 millennia. I have seen the rise and fall of empires, the birth and death of stars, the evolution of countless species. But I have never seen anything quite like what your people accomplish with simple tools and determined effort. Marcus, now wearing the title of Chief Dragon Hygienist with only mild embarrassment, smiled as he watched his expanded crew work. We're not the most advanced species in the galaxy, he said. We're not the smartest or the most sophisticated, but we're good at figuring out practical solutions to real problems. And that, Sithrakesh said, may be the most valuable skill in the universe. As Marcus looked out at his bustling operation, crews cleaning dragons, scientists analyzing scale samples, engineers developing new tools, he reflected on how far they'd come. They had started as a small mining operation on a forgotten asteroid. Now they were the premier dragon maintenance facility in the galaxy, with clients traveling from across multiple star systems to receive their services. It all started with soap, water, and the willingness to tackle a problem that everyone else thought was impossible. Sometimes, Marcus thought, the best solutions really were the simplest ones. And sometimes all it took to change the galaxy was a good scrub brush and a lot of elbow grease. The dragon cleaning business, as it came to be known, became one of the most successful human enterprises in the galaxy. Not because they used the most advanced technology, but because they understood that some problems required the oldest solution of all: honest work, practical thinking, and the determination to keep scrubbing until the job was done. In the end, that was very human indeed.